There's a vulnerability in Palo Alto Networks management interface for firewalls. It's being actively exploited, but it's in the management interface, and no one exposes the management interfaces of their firewalls, right?
Ever.
What about like secondary controls, VPNs, things of that nature? Why do they have to expose it to the internet? Why can't they use other things to make it safe?
A lot of the times these are vendors. These are weird scenarios where they don't actually have any control over the exposure, the configuration of the management interface, but it's still protecting or securing their traffic. It's not great to have vulnerabilities in your management interface, and there are plenty of scenarios where this could be exploited by an insider threat or someone who's gained internal access, but don't expose your management interfaces. It's just not a good practice. Palo Alto Networks recently published a blog, or I guess you call it intelligence brief or whatever you want to call it, fancy blog. So there's two main kind of exploits that we know about from North Korean IT workers, posing as a real IT company, interviewing developers, and then during the interview, they distribute malware. They try to get jobs at target companies that they're trying to breach, or in fact, as highly qualified IT workers, which has two benefits. Number one, as an IT worker, you have tons of access to company information, but two, you're also collecting a salary, which can be used since North Korea is sanctioned. I think traditional pen tests would cover most of the kind of risks of this, of like default user permissions are way too high. SharePoint data exposure or file share exposure is way too high. Like, if a default employee can't do anything that damaging, the risk from this goes down. It's a really cool write-up, and I will say it is funny. Like, there's some pretty cool GeoInt type stuff going on. The headshot was in the left. That was what the worker had provided. And then you can see they actually figured out exactly where that headshot was taken, which gives you the geolocation of that user. T-Mobile telecom stuff.
Another one.
Every time T-Mobile gets breached.
Every year.
Yeah, it's every year T-Mobile gets breached. So I'm glad we covered this one in 2024 before we get into the next year's breach. At this time, T-Mobile systems and data have not been impacted in any significant way. We have no evidence of impacts to customer information. I don't know how that statement can be true and it not be like a third-party monitoring or other like solution that got hacked.
Isn't that just always step one in the breach notification? Like, deny everything. Yeah, there was something, but it's not like that big of a deal.
Yeah, maybe, but I will say we're seeing people being prosecuted for that now. SolarWinds, we've talked about on the show a lot. The person who said, we're super secure to the shareholders is now being prosecuted for basically lying. Krebs on Security recently did an interview. It's talking about the real-life identity of the person who basically stole a ton of payment card industry stuff from Target and Home Depot between 2013 and 2014. It was very transparent that the reason he's doing the interview is because he's broke and he's trying to self-promote. Essentially, it's a Russian national.
He's naming names.
He's naming names. You don't name names or else you get defenestrated. This individual has been documenting the nicknames, real names, and criminal exploits of Russian hackers who worked under the protection of corrupt officials and FSB. I think you were spot on. I think that being prosecuted because he stepped out and started bringing transparency to something that shouldn't be transparent, or at least from their perspective, shouldn't be transparent. Robert Perbeck, sentenced to 10 years in prison for stealing personal data of 132,000 people and extortion, basically buying network access to a computer server of a medical clinic in Georgia, using that to steal PII of 42,000 people, and then trying to ransom back that data to the victims.
Is 10 years enough for this? Or is that like a sweet spot? What do you think?
I mean, I think it's enough. I think it's actually pretty harsh. I mean, extortion is bad. Data theft is bad. But 10 years in prison, is that? I mean, I don't know. It
depends on the prison, I guess.
Yeah, true.
There's the top vulnerabilities of 2023.
A lot of these vulnerabilities were patched pretty quickly after they were disclosed. And I feel like in my head, what happened was there was a zero-day exploitation, and then people didn't patch, and so they just kept getting used over time. Patch your stuff.
I was about to say. Yeah.
I did hear like a while ago, a long time, about some windmills that had been hacked, and they were really doing their best. Actually, they were maintaining the windmill software because it was really not great. So when the organization found out that they had been hacked, they were like, listen, what are you doing on these things? And they said, well, we're mining Bitcoin or there's some cryptocurrency. They said, well, keep mining it and just keep these servers running. Or we'll call it an even trade.
Join us for live InfoSec news every Monday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the Black Hills InfoSec YouTube channel.